It started the way most mistakes do, with good intentions. When Mom told me she was getting remarried, I smiled like I meant it. After years of watching her fade behind empty wine glasses and unanswered prayers, I wanted to believe she could still find joy. Raymond seemed to be that miracle. Tall, self-assured, with that strange ability to make a room quiet just by entering it, he brought a calm I hadn't seen in our home since my father left. And more than that, he noticed me. Not in the way most adults did. Through me. Not as the polite son of the woman they really wanted to impress. No, Raymond looked at me as if I were my own person. A person worth speaking to. That first dinner together, I caught him watching me across the table. Not judging, just present. Like he could already read the loneliness I carried and wasn't afraid of it. He moved in that fall. The house changed in ways I didn't expect. Tools appeared in the garage. The coffee tasted better and my mother laughed again, at least more than she used to. I tried to keep my distance at first, unsure where I fit in this new picture. But Raymond had a way of gently closing the space. Between people. He found reasons to involve me. Painting the spare room, fixing the leaky faucet, watching old movies with him while Mom worked late shifts. At first it felt nice, natural, like I was being invited into something. We began having these long conversations, mostly late at night. I'd come down for a snack, find him still awake in the den. He had an easy voice, deep and careful, like every word was measured. He asked about school, about writing, even about Jesse, my boyfriend, though I never used that word around the house. Raymond didn't flinch when I mentioned him, didn't raise an eyebrow. He just listened. And when I finally said the words out loud, "I'm gay," he gave this little nod like it wasn't news. Like he'd known all along and didn't think any less of me. After that, something shifted. Not dramatically, just small things. He'd touch my shoulder when passing by, let his hand rest there a moment too long. He started working out in the mornings with the door open, shirtless. I noticed. I pretended I didn't, and then hated myself for noticing. I told Jesse about Raymond, not the strange touches, just that we were getting along, that he was more supportive than I expected. Jesse seemed glad but distant. We'd been doing long distance for almost a year, and most days it felt like I was reaching for something. That kept stepping back. Raymond, by contrast, was here. Solid, listening. His silence wasn't empty the way Jesse's had become. It filled a room. One night, Raymond offered me a beer. Said I was old enough to have one with him, just not two. Tell Mom. I remember sitting beside him on the back porch, the air cool and quiet, the stars blinking above us like secrets. He leaned back, stretched, laughed at something I said, and then he looked at me for just a second too long. "Jesse's lucky," he said. I looked at him, unsure. To have someone who cares so deeply. You feel things big, Elliot. Not many people do anymore. I wanted to say something smart or humble, but the words stuck in my throat. I started dreaming about him after that, not always in ways that made sense. Sometimes we were just talking, walking through a forest or sitting in a quiet room. Other times, like I'd wake up flushed, ashamed, confused. I didn't tell anyone, especially not Jesse. I kept telling myself it was harmless, that Raymond was just kind, that I was misreading things because I was lonely, vulnerable, stupid. But the more I tried to create distance, the closer he seemed to stand. At dinner, in the hallway, at the gym, spotting me while I lifted weights, his hand firm at my waist. One afternoon, I caught his reflection in the bathroom mirror. He was looking at me, really looking. And for a split second, I didn't see a father figure. I saw a man. The truth terrified me. Because some small buried part of me, weak and desperate, didn't want to stop him. I wish I could say I didn't know where this was going, that I was blindsided. But the truth is, I saw the path the moment he first touched my shoulder and let it linger. And I followed it anyway, not because I wanted to betray anyone, but because I wanted to be seen. And Raymond made me feel seen, even if it meant losing everything else. Jesse arrived on a Friday evening, suitcase in one hand, sunburn on his neck from the long drive. I watched him step out of the car with his usual lopsided smile, and for a moment, I tried to feel what I used to. The flutter, the relief, but all I felt was the weight of pretending. We hadn't seen each other in 2 months. He kissed me, soft and familiar, and I kissed him back like I owed it, like muscle memory. Inside the house, Mom was already fussing over dinner, and Raymond appeared from the hallway, towel draped around his shoulders, chest glistening from a recent shower. Jesse offered a polite handshake. Raymond smiled his usual, unreadable smile. Dinner passed with laughter and wine, and I floated through it like a ghost. I could feel Jesse watching me, wondering why my hand didn't reach for his under the table, why my stories lacked the color they used to have. He didn't ask, not yet. He still believed whatever was broken between us could be patched with time and effort. That night, Jesse and I lay in bed together, our backs touching. He fell asleep quickly. He always did when he felt safe. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering when I'd started confusing attention for affection. I slipped out of bed quietly, padding barefoot into the kitchen for water. The house was dark, save for the dim glow above the stove. Raymond was already there, shirtless again, leaning against the counter, drinking something dark from a tumbler. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked, voice low and casual. I shrugged. "Not really." He gestured to the stool across from him, and I sat. We said nothing for a while, just silence, thick and suspended. Then, without looking at me, he said, "You looked sad tonight." I laughed, unsure. "I'm fine." "No, you're not," he replied gently. "You haven't been for a while." There was a kindness in his voice that broke something open inside me. Before I could stop myself, I was talking. About Jesse. About how the distance between us had become a silence I didn't know how to fill. About how I felt like I was disappearing, even while someone loved me. Raymond reached across the counter, his hand warm over mine. "You don't have to vanish to be loved, Elliot." It was just a sentence, but it lodged itself deep, like a hook. His thumb moved slowly across the back of my hand. My heart pounded. I didn't move. "Do you want to disappear now?" he asked softly. I shook my head. No words left in me. He stood, came around the counter, and stood in front of me. My knees brushed his thighs. I should have stood up, should have left the room, should have said something. Instead, I sat still, breathless, watching as he cupped my face and leaned in. The kiss was not sudden. It was inevitable. It tasted of bourbon and midnight and everything I'd tried to bury. For one desperate second, I kissed him back. Then, I pulled away like I'd touched fire. I can't," I whispered. Raymond didn't argue, didn't plead. He just looked at me with something like sorrow. "You didn't stop because you didn't want it," he said. "You stopped because you know what it costs." I walked away, fast, back into my bedroom where Jesse still slept, one arm flung across my side of the bed like he was reaching. For me, even in dreams. I slipped under the covers, shaking. He stirred, opened one eye, mumbled, "You okay?" I nodded. A lie. He kissed my shoulder and fell back asleep, trusting me. The next morning, I didn't speak to Raymond. He didn't speak to me. But the silence had a shape now, a memory, a bruise. Later that day, I checked my phone. A message from him blinked on the screen. "You felt it too, didn't you?" I stared at it for a long time. Didn't reply. Didn't delete it either. The guilt wasn't sharp yet. It came like smoke, creeping in slow, curling around my throat. And still, buried beneath it, was the flicker of something worse than shame. longing. Jesse found the message 2 days later. I'd left my phone charging on the nightstand while I showered, carelessly unlocked. I should have known better. He wasn't the type to snoop, but love makes people curious when things feel off. And I'd been off for weeks. When I came out, towel slung low on my hips, the air between us had already changed. He sat on the edge of the bed, elbows resting on his knees, phone in hand, face blank but trembling slightly. You felt it too, didn't you? He read aloud. His voice cracked on the last word. My body turned cold. I stood there, dripping and silent, as if admitting anything out loud would shatter whatever illusion still clung to the room. But the silence itself was admission. Raymond? Jesse asked. He didn't yell. He didn't throw the phone. He just looked up at me, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in a long time. Fear, not of me, but for me. I'm sorry, I whispered. It wasn't what you think. It wasn't planned. I didn't mean, don't, he said, standing. Don't try to make it small. It's not small. I reached for him, and he stepped back like I'd burned him. You kissed your mother's husband, he said slowly, like saying it out loud would force it into reality. Do you even hear how broken that sounds? I wanted to explain, to throw words at him that might patch the holes, but every word I had felt too late, too useless. I didn't sleep with him, I said, as if that mattered. Jesse laughed hollow. That's your defense? He packed his things without another word. I didn't stop him. I watched him walk away, and with every step, a part of me knew I deserved it. Raymond didn't reach out. For days I wandered the house in a daze, avoiding my mother's questions, drifting from room to room like a ghost haunting my own life. Claire noticed, of course. Mothers always do, but she never pressed. Maybe she didn't want to know the truth, or maybe she already suspected it. One evening, I sat in the backyard alone, wrapped in one of Jesse's old hoodies, staring into the sky like it might offer some form of direction. The door creaked open behind me. Raymond. He sat beside me without invitation. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he offered a quiet, I didn't mean for this to happen. I turned to him, tired. But it did. I saw you were hurting, he said. I just wanted to be there for you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. You don't comfort someone by kissing them. He stared at his hands, jaw tight. I crossed a line. No, I said. You erased it. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time, I didn't see warmth. I saw a man who justified his needs, who disguised desire as concern. And I saw myself as someone who let it happen because I was starving for affection. You made me feel wanted, I said, but not in a way that healed me. You split me open. Raymond nodded slowly, like he understood, but I no longer trusted what he understood. He stood to leave, pausing at the door. If I hurt you, Elliot, I'm sorry. You didn't just hurt me, I said. You taught me that trust can look a lot like love, until it asks for something back. He disappeared into the house, and I sat there until the sky turned black. Weeks passed. Jesse didn't return my calls. Mom kept asking if I was eating. Raymond avoided me, and I avoided mirrors. I started walking again late at night when the town was asleep and the streets whispered more than they judged. I passed familiar places, Jesse's old cafe, the bus stop where I'd first told Raymond about my writing, the bridge where I used to stand and watch the river move below like it knew all my secrets. I stopped there one night, stared down at the water, cool and quiet and endless. I didn't want to die. I just wanted the version of me that let this happen to disappear. But I stood there, breathing, alive, which meant I still had to carry it. I didn't get closure. There was no dramatic confrontation, no teary apologies, no clean break, just silence. and a message that still lived on my phone like a bruise I couldn't delete. Infidelity, I learned, isn't always about bodies. Sometimes it's about betrayal so quiet it echoes for years. And sometimes, the person you needed most is the one who taught you how to live with absence.